of USG, a warm welcome here live from Marketing Live in de Kookfabriek in Amsterdam. With one of the first keynotes at my table, Jamie Anderson. Jamie, a warm welcome. And just before you have to leave to Antwerp for a next presentation, glad you could make some time. A high energy presentation, eh? Where do you get that energy from?
Well, you know, I've spent a lot of, much of the last 5 years doing research and teaching about creative industries, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things you discover with creative people is that they bring their inspiration and their passion to work.
Yeah.
So actually I think that's what I do now.
That's what it's all about.
Connecting your professional and your personal energy is very important.
Like Generation Y almost, eh? Because I do think that your professional life and your private life, and it's becoming more and more one piece, one thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this morning. Generation Y have grown up with social media, so you know you don't have a public and a professional persona as a Generation Y person. This is an abstract, you know, crazy kind of concept for them.
There's a whole generation that still they're not used to that yet.
No,
right?
absolutely.
And a lot of marketeers also haven't.
No, you're absolutely right.
Your case was Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
A brilliant case. Everybody knows a little bit about it, but you really go into what's the essence of your story?
Well, you know, I think the essence is, you know, how do you really build a global brand? You know, in one side in the context of a global economic crisis, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we look at the last 3 years and the crisis that a lot of companies have been going through, she's been able to build this incredible brand at the time of you know, crisis and economic turmoil. So I think one is around, you know, how do you actually do that? You know, build and manage a brand at a tough time. The second one is actually how do you, you know, really make sense of social media and digital to manage a brand and build and connect the brand to people. So that's the core of what I talk about.
Mm-hmm. And it's not about getting famous and getting rich, but it's about making the difference.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things I think with you know, Lady Gaga was born in '84, right? So she is of this Generation Y. And what's been quite remarkable about her evolution, you know, as a superstar, is that a lot of superstars don't start talking about real issues that are important to them as individuals in terms of their values until they're well established in their careers. You know, you think of Bono or Bob Geldof.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, as someone coming from Generation Y, I mean, she's really talked about who she is as a person and connected her personal values to her art and her business, if you like, from day one. You know, and that's quite unique and quite
Is
special.
idealism a crucial part of every brand around the world nowadays?
Well, you know,
because that's what I hear this morning. Also, the Unilevers and the Procter & Gamble, making it a better life, and blah blah. It almost sounds like idealism.
No, you know, I think it's a lot of people, you know, and you and I included, I'm sure, you know, have become very cynical about brands and become very cynical about big companies making false, you know, claims and grand statements about what they do.
As my children say, they lie.
Yeah, they lie.
They talk bullshit.
And this is one of the things that, you know, I had a wonderful interview with Lady Gaga where she looks at the camera and says, you know, the problem with artists in the past and with brands in the past is that they lie. And you can't do that anymore because, you know, in today's world of social media, and we look at the Arab Spring, right? Yeah. Once people are unleashed with information and knowledge, you can't lie anymore. You can't hide anymore. So this idea, you know, that we toyed with 5-10 years ago about the double bottom line, you know, around social responsibility and profit, this is a reality today. Because you can't hide anymore.
But it's almost like a paradox, you know, making money in one hand and making it a bad, because what they in essence maybe should, talking about the Unilever, the big brands that I hear today also, shouldn't they make less? Instead of all, because we grew from 100 years ago, it was like, okay, we're building a life with cars, with fast-moving consumer goods, with brand, blah, 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 blah. And now we are on a tipping point. It almost seems like maybe we have to go back.
Yeah, well, I think one of the comments this morning was capitalism at a crossroads. You know? And I think brands and big organizations are having to think much more about the social impact they have with their products. And I'll give you an example. I was at an event with Heineken just a couple of weeks ago. And recently Heineken withdrew a high alcohol cider product from the United Kingdom. Not because it wasn't profitable. It was a very profitable, very successful product. But what they started to see was that this product was having a big impact on alcoholism. And what they were seeing were people who were living on the street and who were alcoholics. This was their product of choice because it was low cost, high alcohol.
It was
very
effective.
profitable,
It was
very effective.
For them.
Now, what's the responsibility there? You know, and how did Heineken discover that? Because because non-government organisations and social media groups started to talk about the impact of cider in the UK. Now, should they ignore that because it's a very profitable product? No, they didn't.
Is a solution is a solution working together with non-profit organisations, like the examples also you saw here, like brushing your teeth, and you have a product like toothpaste, but then you go with an insurance company and they say, hey, you have to to take good care of your teeth and blah 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 and brush it. Is that an honest way to go?
Well, I think actually we've gone a step further, yeah? Because I think this talk of NGOs partnering together with corporates is 5 years ago. Huh?
Yeah.
Because actually the corporates don't need to partner with the NGOs now because the social movements are happening without the NGOs in a way. The Arab Spring was not organised by an NGO, right? So one of the things, and I had a wonderful discussion last night with a senior person from Greenpeace, what's the role of Greenpeace today? Is the role of Greenpeace to organise campaigns and often confront corporates, or is the role of Greenpeace to actually be an orchestrator of movements? Of
the channel,
So I think that the question is not should the corporate be engaging more with the NGOs, actually the corporate needs to be engaging more with the movements. Now the NGOs happen often to be a platform or enabler, but before the NGO acted as the intermediary between the movement and the corporate, that need for an intermediary is disappearing.
Will it one day be so that the goals of brand owners, NGOs, the audience, us, the world, will be the same? Or is that me the idealist?
This is the confrontation, because it's a confrontation between sustainability and capitalism. And this is not true for every part of the world, right? And I think one thing that struck me about the conversation this morning is this is a very developed world conversation. That we have the luxury to choose to pay a little bit more for a product that we believe is sustainable, or we believe, it has purpose. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the world don't have the luxury of that choice. So the key is not just to think about this. I think what we heard a lot of this morning is, yes, there is differentiation in making a product sustainable, making them purposeful. And in fact, customers in Belgium or Germany or the Netherlands, they'll pay for that. They'll pay more for that. But we have an equal responsibility to deliver that kind of purpose and sustainability
in continents like
for India and Africa. And I think that's in a way a contradiction. Because on the one hand, we do need sustainability, but on the other hand, we've said we want to give access to people. And I think that's something the industry will grapple with, how to deliver the double bottom line, but also go beyond the rich West to try to develop and deliver that for the developing market.
Last question, we could talk for hours, but we can't because you have to go to Antwerp and I have to do a lot more interviews. But the last question I want to ask you, because I was listening to you in the audience, and of course Lady Gaga is like a dream scenario, 25 million followers on Twitter. It's like mega, what a brand. But it's a person. It's a human being.
Correct.
If we're talking about the big successes, Apple is Steve Jobs.
Correct.
Virgin is Branson.
Sure.
Unilever, Procter & Gamble, those are not human brands. They are big companies. So how can they, so I was sitting there and I was like, okay, nice story about Lady Gaga, but it's impossible for all those other brands to have the same success because there's no live person behind it.
Well, I don't believe that at all, actually, because I think, I would look at different kinds of brands, because there are absolutely loved brands who can be the Lady Gaga of social media.
Without being a really person.
Harley Davidson is a fantastic example, because who is Harley Davidson? Harley Davidson is a philosophy and a mindset, and that Harley
can
Davidson
have the same strength as a human being?
I think it's even stronger in a way, because it's more than one human being. The Harley Davidson Facebook page is a platform for a community of people. So I think you look at even Starbucks is amazing Facebook community, because actually, what is Starbucks? People would say it's simply a brand, it's a coffee chain, but actually Starbucks has built a social media platform for coffee connoisseurs to come to and interact. So it depends, what is your brand? And if you look at Nike, is very interesting, because actually Nike is achieving many of its objectives not by facilitating community itself, but working with its big stars like Nadal to actually support their social media strategy. So in fact, it's not Nike that's having the conversation with the consumer or the follower, it's actually Nadal who's having the conversation with his followers. And Nike is just supporting that and encouraging that and facilitating that. So of course, the relationship there is felt between the follower of Nadal and Nadal. He's got 35 million followers, by the way. But guess what? Nadal also has the opportunity to say, I got my great pair of Nikes today. Now, the question then becomes, is that authentic? Well, actually, Generation Y knows that Nadal is sponsored by Nike, and he has to say nice things about Nike. But at the same time, he's also extremely authentic in every other way on Twitter. So it depends on where you're coming from. You know, it may not be you as the individual, it may be your ambassadors, like Nadal for Nike. It could be the product and the community, like for Harley Davidson. So there's no one social media strategy for any brand. It depends on who you are, and are you a platform in yourself, or are you an orchestrator of communities? Yeah? And that's where it's going to evolve.
Challenging world. What's your favorite? Not what's your favorite brand. Impossible question. Name one brand that's in your top 3.
Wow,
your personal top 3.
I would say Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Damien Hirst.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck in Antwerp. And thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching on behalf of USG. Thank you very much. Bye.